I come from Bangladesh, a country often called the land of rivers, a vast delta shaped by the mighty Padma, Meghna, Yamuna, and hundreds of the other rivers. I choose to explore through a short documentary focusing in particular on the Minnesota stretch of the Mississippi River. Across the world, rivers, whether the Kornofuli, Buriganga, Dholeshwari, Indus, Ganges or Mississippi, Missouri, Volga, Danube, Niles or Amazon, you name it. Each river play an essential and integrated role in sustaining ecological balance, biodiversity, supporting economics and preserving life for future generations. In this documentary, I choose three people in different ages and backgrounds, asking some questions about how they thought about rivers in perspective of climate literacy, general awareness, or any sort of memories followed by casual, non-traditional approach and not taking any academical field notes, but want to reveal their reflexive thoughts about the importance of river that are thoroughly based on their memories and living experiences.
I grew up here in Minnesota, and since having been born in Alberta, I've grown up in and around rivers. Apart from the Mississippi, I've seen the Seine, I've seen the Thames, I've seen the Gomti, I've seen many rivers, all of different levels of pollution, and some are better than others.
Great, so I actually grew up in a town called Elk River, and I lived about 3 blocks from where the Elk River meets the Mississippi. And so every day I pretty much would walk by or go to the river's edge. And I have watched, we used to always kind of judge how much snow melt or how much rain fell depending on the river's, how high it was. And I have memories of being a kid of going down and, we would watch as people fished in the river and pulled out various, whether it was crawfish or fish, and, we would kind of stand around as little kids barefoot, throw rocks in the river, and, we would kind of spend our afternoons down there.
I saw 2. I saw the Mississippi River, St. Croix, and Yalas. The rivers in Bangladesh, it's more polluted, and the rivers in the US, it's more cleaner. But the rivers in Bangladesh, it feels more greener and more home, and the rivers in the US, it's boring and plain.
The Mississippi River has changed for the better, really, since I was a child. It certainly isn't like some of the rivers in the world, but it is cleaner than it was when I was a kid. There was a lot of industry on the river, and most of that has been cleaned up, and it's looking a lot better. The problem I see these days is that people litter along the sides of the river, and they don't clean up after themselves. But I think, as compared to when I was a child, it has improved a lot, and I think the state's working hard to do that. But I think people need to keep in mind to take care of their environment.
I didn't learn much about the rivers. In 3rd grade I learned about it, and I don't really remember anything I learned from 3rd grade, and I don't really know about rivers, but I enjoy the view of rivers.
And something that I really loved is that I actually used to take my son to the river frequently as well. And we would go down, and a few years ago we spent a lot of time catching tadpoles in the Elk River right before it meets the Mississippi. And we also would find shells. So we would find these clam shells, and I was super excited because we brought them down to the Science Museum here in the Twin Cities. And we were able to find out that these specific types of clams are native clams to Minnesota, and they're really a good indicator of river health. And so that was really exciting for us to know that our little portion of the river did seem to be indicative of healthy. We had tadpoles and various bugs and things like that, and also these clams, which are really indicative of river health.
I think that we can take better care of our river by cleaning up, by not throwing trash, by taking care of our yards so that we don't have fertilizer runoff. I think they're doing good things for repairing the river areas so there's more shoreline to be used as opposed to building up against the shoreline. But I think just as homeowners and people who live in Minnesota, we need to be mindful of litter and be mindful of what we put in the water.
Some of the other things that I have also noticed with the river is the amount of trash. When we go to the river now, my son and I always try to carry a bag with us so that we can try to pick up the things we're seeing. This trash is just kind of strewn everywhere, and it's encompassing everything from plastics and bags to wrappers to fishing line, just things that are probably getting washed out into the river or people are leaving behind. And I have also noticed a great deal more murkiness in the water. The water doesn't always appear as clean as what I remembered as a kid. There's areas that just feel very murky in the bottomland where we used to walk out and it was sand, and now it's kind of got a murkiness to it.
The rivers is important for the ecology of the environment.
As far as adolescents are concerned, I'm not sure that they're as tuned into their outdoor environment. I think they've been tuned inward for long, but we do have large groups of young people who are working to make the environment better. But I'd like to see more activity myself. I'd like to see them be encouraged to get outdoors more and to take care of their outdoor space by, having trash drives, picking up trash, or walking along the river to help clean things. I think that should be part of the curriculum, cleaning up our space, doing service work in those kind of ways.
Some of the critical ways that we can help protect our river systems is by making sure that we decrease the amount of pollution we have. So this is society banding together, really. Whereas like if we decrease the amount of pesticides and herbicides that we're putting on our lawns or even our agricultural systems, so decreasing the amount of pollution that we're releasing into our rivers is really, really critical for the future life of these ecosystems. Some of the other ways that I think are really important are getting out and participating in river cleanups or river preservation methods. So if we end up planting trees or natural shrubbery that traditionally has flanked rivers, this not only helps absorb some of the pollution prior to getting into the river, but it can also help establish a stronger riverside bed so that it doesn't have as much erosion, which can lead into some of that murkiness that rivers end up having, is just basic erosion of dirt into the river systems. And if you don't want to participate in those kinds of efforts, even sharing online various river conservation methods or groups so that they get more visibility, and donating to those groups that are going to be doing this work can really help out preserving our rivers for the future generations.
We should protect our rivers to preserve biodiversity, to preserve fresh sources of water, and to preserve all types of species and protect them from climate change. We should also protect our rivers for different types of recreation, like canoeing and kayaking and fishing and hiking and swimming. And we should also protect it for the future generations.
Let the river flow for our children and our children's children and all future generations.
Save the river for me and my generation.
Let the river flow.
Let the river flow. let the river flow.